Hey everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. My name is Mark Wilson, and I am the new Strategic Relationship Manager for Resilient, and I'm thrilled to be back with the Resilient Network again and working with you all. So some of you may recognise me from a few years ago. For those that I haven't met yet, looking forward to working with you all closely in the future. Today we have three experts to discuss Vero's SME and commercial motor offering, and the improvements that we continue to make to ensure that we not only offer you a great product, but also a seamless transactional experience as well. Now, before we delve into the details, allow me to introduce our three presenters today. We have Shelley Turner, Broker Experience Practice Manager. We have Nina Zamani, Practice Manager, SME Packages, and Neil Gillett, Senior Underwriting Specialist, Commercial Motor Portfolio. All three bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table, with all three heavily involved over the last couple of years with the improvements made to the product and also to the system that we transact on. Now, without further ado, let's begin, and I'll hand over to Shelley.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. Good to see everybody on board. Look, some of you may have seen some of the content that we're going to take you through today, but maybe not all of it, because with our new upgraded VeroEdge SME quote and bind system for packages and also commercial motor, we're actually not stuck in mud anymore. We're actually able to continually evolve. We're very agile now, which we haven't really had the capability to be before. So whilst you may have seen some of the changes, we've got lots more coming. So today, going to take you through VeroEdge, past and present, where we were and where we're kind of going, some of our appetite changes, some changes to our occupation codes. We're going to talk about prior claims improvements, what we've done to make it easier for you to actually, state where your clients' claims were. Some things like windscreen, not as big an issue from a claims perspective. Then we're going to talk about some other key upgrades that we've got coming. I'm going to take you through the top occupations that you should all be really well versed in that come from your Vero representative each month. We're going to touch on our claims proposition. We're going to talk through some of the tools and resources that are now available to you through the Vero Broker Hub and also your dedicated Vero BDM or representative. And then we're also going to have some time at the end for some more Q&A if needed. So look, without any further ado, I'm going to touch now on how we got to where we are now. So over the last couple of years at least, and some of you may have been involved in this, we actually held a number of broker focus groups to ask our brokers what they actually wanted from Vero and an SME quote system and commercial motor quote system. So we held a number of those. They were held nationally around the country. We actually took on board a lot of your feedback that came through in the broker survey that you should receive, every kind of couple of months. We took the feedback that you provided to your Vero representatives, be that a BDM or business development manager, your strategic relationship managers, or through conferences or underwriters. And look, the key themes were and pain points were pretty understandable. You told us initially that we were unpredictable. You wanted us to make it easy. You wanted us to be quick to respond, reliable. You wanted us to tell you exactly what we were doing, good customer service, some flexibility when needed, and you wanted us to tell you exactly where our appetite is and what we like to write. So when we first launched our first upgrade in 2022, we did roll out quite a lot of these, and we've continued to refine as we've gone along. Our second upgrade came in August in 2023, and through all of that, we've added new occupation codes to help you with selectability. We've further reduced the number of unnecessary system-generated referrals through the quote and bind experience. However, even with all of that, you've still got the ability to refer it when you need it or pick up the phone, talk to an underwriter or a Vero broker representative. We've given you inbuilt discretionary discount, which you can actually, enter yourself subject to minimum premium on both SME packages and commercial motor. And you've also got the ability still to adjust full commission across new business and renewal. We've also systemised our appetite further So when you're putting a quote in, you'll actually get a definitive answer on acceptability. We have lots of included and excluded activities attached to those particular occupations. And so it allows you to see exactly what's being covered for your client. And if an occupation is a decline on one particular occupation, you can actually search under that declined or excluded activity to see if there's a better code available. We have a dedicated SME underwriting team for you now, and we have a newly created authorised rep area and sales hub. And of course, you've also got your dedicated Vero representatives. Since we've launched, we noticed we have, our strike rates have improved in the occupations that we want to write. We've also continued to increase the number of occupations with standalone covers. Now there's fire, also liability, and portable and valuable items, also known as general property. You should see more regular updates from us. As I mentioned, the top occupation codes from your representatives each month on both packages and commercial motor to tell you exactly what we are keen to write. And we're also looking at your feedback that comes back to us each month. So all of that kind of combined, we're continuing to evolve and make it a better experience for you. So I won't touch too much on this slide, but just a little bit for you to understand, even last year, 2022, when we first went out with our upgrade, which was, very exciting, we've continued to evolve, pivot, change where we need to. We found when we first launched, some of the occupation changes weren't very well understood, particularly for property owners. And that was a kind of a bit of a pain point. Some of the limits we found were too low. There was a limited availability of the standalone occupations. Some of the trade-specific questions were really not aligned to the other market offering. And our prior claims piece was very harsh. We actually had some auto-applied endorsements that came in that resolved some of those issues. We took out pretty much most of the system referrals, no system referrals. We had hard rules to deliver that certainty, and we provided clearer messaging on appetite. Since then, we've gone further again, and we'll continue to do. So you would have seen we've updated key occupations, which Nina will take you through a little bit later on property owners, cleaners and service stations. We've simplified the time of day approach. So if you're looking at a cleaner, are they cleaning before hours, business hours, during business hours, etc. We've added a whole lot of new occupations, 480 odd in August last year, and we've got another 170 planned for April this year, so stay tuned for that. In response to your feedback, we've actually increased some of the sum insured limits to enable more quotes. And as I mentioned previously, there's now actually more standalone occupations that you can use for fire, liability and portable valuable items. We've got rid of 15 trade-specific questions that were no longer needed. And as I mentioned, we have a new sophisticated prior claims approach, which we'll take you through a little bit later on how that works. We've leveraged a lot of auto endorsements to supply more quotes with terms. And as I mentioned, the key to it all is providing you with an immediate response, almost no system-generated referrals, but more flexibility for underwriters, midterm and renewal. So look, to take you through some of the changes, I'm now going to hand over to Nina Zamani.
Thank you, Shelley. So that's a really good summary of the things that I'm just going to take us a little bit deeper into from an SME packages perspective before I do hand over to Neil. With me. The button's not working. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll take you through some of our key appetite changes. As Shelley alluded to earlier, when we went live in 2022, some of those limits that we set just probably were just a little bit too low. So we've looked at our data, we've listened to your feedback, and as a result, we have made some amendments at a sort of risk code level. So you see on the left-hand side of this slide, we've got risk buckets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, with 1 being those targeted professional occupations, your accountants, solicitors, architects, moving up through to your sort of higher hazard occupations of woodworker. Now, in the middle space there, around about the risk hazard 2 and 3s, your hairdressers, your florists, your tradies, your retailers. We did used to have a single situation limit there of 5 million, and we've increased that to 7 million. So we've actually looked at some of those midterm adjustment limits as well, and tweaked those. And there on the right-hand side, it is the sum insured limit that allows the business to grow from new business through to renewal without referral. And as Shelley alluded to, we have also built in some more flexibility at that point for better conversations with our underwriters for business that may be coming up to that amount or maybe coming over that. So that's been really good. The other key change we've made, and really listening to feedback and really key feedback from the Resilient Network, was where liability cover hasn't been taken, we still ask for turnover, but we do allow much greater limits. So this was a real pain point, and we really thank you very much for your feedback. So now I'll talk about some occupation codes. So occupation codes, if we cast our minds back to 2022, we talked about how they do the heavy lifting. They'll continue to do that forever. We currently have about 3,751 selectable occupations in VeroEdge. Now, in our initial release, we had around about 3,300. We added about 480 new codes in August last year. As part of that, we also decommissioned a few as well. So, it does sort of there are overs and unders. And as we're coming up to the next release in April, we're going to be adding in another 170 occupation codes, really based on feedback to give breadth and depth and to give you better choices for business that we want to write that perhaps we just weren't hitting the mark in. We also increased the sum insured limit on 125 codes last August. I'll talk you through some of those in a minute. As I said, many of the new occupation codes are designed to allow for the change to business structure and type. One of the key changes that we will be bringing in, for example, in April, based on feedback, is rather than under concreting services, rather than just having concreting or concreter, which may be a decline, we're incorporating things like concrete stenciling and stamping, concrete polishing. Again, more granular occupations that will be acceptable and give you more opportunities to write business with us. Occupation codes, they fall into different pricing buckets, and we're always looking at that and determining, are we hitting the mark, or do we still need to tune and tweak? And that is a continual process that we go through. This differentiation across the occupation codes does allow you to pick the most appropriate code for your client and get the best price at the best premium that you can get. We've also split those codes. So, where we used to have 1 or 2 codes, we may have 8, 9, or 10, some of which may not be acceptable, but many of which are acceptable, but just get priced at different levels. So here's some of the key upgrades that we made within the occupation space. Now, we received a lot of feedback in relation to property owners. And I have got a slide to take you through what they were and what they are now. But what we've done is move to more user-friendly descriptions. So we're actually calling a property owner a property owner. It's either a property owner of a factory, it may be industrial and have manufacturing, or it may be simply a property owner of an office. So we're using plain English. We've continued to have that multi-tenant risk selection and pricing, where the system, you just need to enter in the tenants and the system will do the rest. We can also allow for more than one tenant in a property or number of units within a property. And the system does continue to identify that highest hazard tenant for pricing and acceptability purposes. Now, some of the feedback we received was, I've got an unoccupied tenant, or one of those tenancies is vacant. To get across this in our almost no system referral model, we've introduced some new tenant occupation codes, one being an unoccupied tenancy and one being a residential tenancy. If you had multiple unoccupied tenancies, you would just enter that multiple times, and then the system would calculate the acceptability off the back of the percentage against the total number of tenants. Same with that residential component for the cyclone reinsurance pool. And we have 100 plus occupations now that previously declined as tenants of property owners, which are now acceptable. So really looking at those things like specialist medical clinic service, a specialty food store as a tenant of a property owner is perfectly acceptable, of course, a factory clearance outlet, or a taxi service. So whilst we might not want to write some or all of those as standalone sort of businesses, as tenants of property owners, they are more than acceptable. Shirley alluded earlier on that we have expanded the number of occupations that we can now write standalone. So we've more than tripled the number of occupations for standalone liability. And some of those new ones are office admin services, so payroll processing, garage door installation, roller shutter installation, pre-made or manufactured cabinet installation, curtain and drapery cleaning service, just to name a few. You may also find that you want to just place the fire cover with us, just the property section only, where the liability may not be acceptable. And we can now offer quotes on some of these occupations. So occupations such as the prefabricated structural steel parts manufacturing, excluding installation, or maybe it could be aerobics, diving, football, golf, ski, swimming instruction, or a childminding service, or any of those clubs mentioned on the screen. So as you can see, we've increasing our flexibility, increasing the ability not just to be a packaged product, but to cater to what your clients may want us to be able to provide. The other key difference is that we can now offer standalone portable and valuable items. So there are certain occupations like surveyors, plumbers, and photographers where they may just want to ensure those, they're portable and valuable items, and we are now a market for them. As I said, we have made some improvements to our sum insured limits. I'll take you through another slide in a minute that takes you through a lot more examples, but really what we've done is look at certain occupations. We might have actually moved them around the risk buckets in order to get those higher new business limits there. And of course, the number of locations, we have kept professional and medical occupations at 10. Retail, we've increased from a maximum of 5 locations to 8 locations, and all other occupation groups from 3 to 6. So these are some examples on the screen now around occupations which have moved from one sum insured to another last August based on your feedback. So you'll see a lot of them there were 5 million for quote new business and are now up to 10 million on that single location, or 20 million for multi-location, and have moved up to 30 million. We've got some like opticians that have moved from 5 to 7 or 15 to 20. And we've also moved certain occupations which may have been sitting in our sort of more higher hazard buckets around, so that something like a variety store operation, which we used to only accept at $1 million for quote new business, is now up to $5 million at quote new business. So that's quite a big shift there. We'll continue to look at the data and we'll continue to take on board your feedback. So if something isn't hitting the mark, please let our underwriters know, let your Vero representatives know, and we will take that on board. Now, here's our classic property owner changes. I just like to bring this up because even when we were building the product, we used the old ABS definitions. I have to say, I struggled with understanding what a property owner was when I looked at this. So it's really good that we're able to make some changes. Commercial or industrial property renting or leasing, take what exactly was that? Factory renting or leasing, I think and I hope you'd all agree, and the feedback that we have received since, is that calling it a property owner is more intuitive, it makes more sense, and it's much easier to look up. So hopefully those on the right-hand side, which are now your current search options, are a lot easier to comprehend. As I said, we have made some changes to occupations and really the time of day. This was another bugbear. We had before, during, after, a combination of all. We've pretty much now got before, or not during business hours, or during business hours. So it's a lot simpler to understand that. And once again, if you have a little look through there, we've created some new codes for cleaners. We love the cleaner occupations, but really to help drive that acceptability and the pricing. Supply claims. Look, when we went live in August, it was a really crude approach. Pretty much what we built was if there were more than 3 claims, or there were claims totaling more than 100,000, it would simply decline. What we've managed to do since then is actually build some more complex decision rules that will consider the type of claim, right? So, for example, for fire claims, we've now split them into a subtype where it could be an arson claim, it could be electrical fault, storm, or malicious damage, all of which would have different acceptability levels, okay? The number of the same claims. So 1 arson claim is an outright decline, but up to 3 money claims before it will decline. So rather than just that, it's 3 and it's out. The number of all your claims, of all the claims totaled up, so 6 claims in 3 years across all classes will decline, and the value of the claims. So claims now over a certain dollar value will now decline. So that's different based off what type of claim it is. So a lot more sophisticated, much better outcomes. So more businesses accepted automatically, less business declined by the system, more clarity for you around what our appetite is, which is really, something that we're trying to live true by, which is to be open and transparent and make it easy for you, and less referrals to underwriting from brokers asking why the system declined when really it seemed a bit harsh. So here's what the drop-down list looks like when you go in to enter a prior claim in VeroEdge. And as you can see, there's the breakdown of the subtypes in front of you there. So now I'm going to hand over to Neil Gillette to take you through our commercial motor offering.
Thanks, Nina. So look, we'll stick with the prior claims topic to begin with. We've called out that in August 22, the prior claims approach across commercial motor and packages may have been a little bit crude. And with commercial motor especially, we had an overwhelming amount of feedback that it needed looking at. So previously, if there was more than 3 claims of any nature or greater than $50,000 claim incurred, the quote would decline. It was as simple as that. It was not detailed enough. It was not sophisticated enough. And thankfully, we've been able to develop and build a sophisticated situation to really take into account the broad array of prior claims you can have in motor and the various factors that sort of apply. So first outcome is clearer claim type selection. So I'll show another slide shortly, which is the motor variant of the drop-down, and it's sort of been built out to incorporate the various different kinds of claims you can have in the commercial motor book. Number 2, we've come up with more responses than simply accept or decline. So obviously, if it is acceptable, we're going to go straight through and give you that quote. If it's acceptable, but there might need to be some imposition, there's 3 different levels of imposed excess that we can apply to the risks on the policy before eventually the policy or quote would be declined. Lastly, the nature of the claim, we've been able to build that out using those clearer claim type selections to disregard windscreen claims, not at fault claims, and peril claims, because they're really not the fault of the insured. but also taking into consideration the age of the claim or the date of the prior claim, appreciating that an insured might have a different approach to driving following a big event, and also the number of vehicles quoted. Clearly, larger the number of vehicles on a quote, there's more likely going to be a larger number of prior claims. So all of that altogether, we've experienced from your feedback an improved broker experience, more acceptable quotes, and certainly a reduced volume of referrals to either our underwriters or our BDMs querying those prior claim declines previously. So if we have a look at the next slide, sort of breaks down the drop-down availability. There we are. So you'll see the top half of that is similar to the property side of things or the packages side of things, and then the bottom half of that selection is the various motor prior claim types. So we've really expanded that list. I believe previously it was only 4 or 5, and here you can see it's probably doubled. All right, so moving on to some good to know for commercial motor. So some updates we've made, and this is really also off the back of feedback from the brokers and our underwriters as well, receiving that from brokers as well. So firstly, to get up to speed with market and to be market leading, our agreed value acceptability calculation, we've really worked on that to see how far we could push it. Historically, you would have probably been used to as low as 80% or as high as 120. We've been able to expand that down to as low as 75 and as high as 130% of the market value. Maximum sum insureds for the more common mobile plant and machinery kinds of risks and small trucks that we write. So significant increases there in trailers, for example. Previously, low limits like 20,000 may have been out of date. So we've been able to increase those, to an appropriate level. So if I just move this around so I can see my screen. Turnover and number of employees. This was a pretty big bugbear because for standalone motor, at least, the number of employees and the business's turnover really weren't relevant to the quote for us. So what we've been able to do is make those fields non-mandatory in VeroEdge. However, appreciating that you may wish to include that information, we've increased dramatically higher limits where there is a standalone motor quote to allow you to continue to give us that info. High performance vehicles such as your American Utes and your Golf, Volkswagen Golfs, for example, are a common one. We used to have a fairly strict requirement on supporting business, whether it was where the thing was garaged, what the anti-theft level of security on the vehicle was, and lastly, a requirement for supporting business. So that all revolves around the sum insured of the vehicle or the market value of the vehicle, depending on what level of cover you've taken. And we've been able to up that to 100,000, really considering and appreciating that the commercial motor market has changed pretty dramatically in the last 10 years, and the average vehicle is sort of in that 70 to 100,000 bracket, and really those impositions shouldn't be required. We've been able to up our third-party fire and theft limits, and lastly, considered our accessory sum insured limits without any referral. So previously, various different accessory types and sum insureds would refer through to an underwriter for review, and we've been able to accept that we've been able to push those limits up to 50,000 for passenger vehicles and 100,000 for small trucks and mobile plant and machinery. Really great example around those accessories is truck mounts for your carpet cleaning businesses. Previously, that would be quite a process to understand who installed the truck mount, if it was a qualified installer. And we've sort of been able to take that on without that requirement and right up to the 50,000 without referral. We can move on to the next slide. I think I'll pass back to Nina.
Thank you very much, Neil. Excellent. Okay, so now I'll take you through some good to know, which really is the continual improvements that we've been making within the SME packages space. So one of the things we've done is we've changed our advanced quoting. So you can now quote in advance up to 50 days in advance without referral. It was 30 days. We reviewed and increased various underwriting. Let me just have a look at that. Have a look. Mark, can you do that? Sorry. underwriting limits, that's right, across multiple cover types. And we've built the capability for underwriting reviews on items which were previously a hard decline, to allow our underwriters to have some more flexibility around appetite at alteration and renewal. Regular occupation updates to provide that greater occupation acceptance across the covers. So sometimes what we might have done is actually look at a particular occupation which exists, but actually look at expanding the number of covers that you can write on that occupation, which was different to previous. And of course, ensuring that we're harmonised across all of our quoting platforms. Enhancements we continue to make to the included and excluded activities to ensure that we're providing clarity on the activities which are both covered and excluded under any given occupation. We're doing regular bug fixes and error remediation. So one such example is the removal of an error created when prior claims value of 0 was entered. That was throwing a horrible error. It was stopping you from being able to progress in the quote process. And we're continually doing this every fortnight on average. We're fixing things up in the back end to enhance the experience for you in the front end. And as I said, behind the scenes system updates to enable successful renewal conversion of the existing policies which sit in our old world and will be moving over to our new platform. So before I continue, I think this is probably a good position to really maybe throw it open to whether there's any questions that have come through in the chat. So Anna.
No questions at this point, but I'll let you know if any pop up.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So now I will hand over to Shelley Turner to take you through the top occupations.
Thank you, Nina. Well, I know we've thrown a lot at you today, a lot to actually absorb, but hopefully you found it helpful. You should be receiving each month from your dedicated Vero representative the top occupation listings for SME packages and also commercial motor. So these are the occupations we know we're striking really well in. That we're competitive. So please, they're a very quick read. They are changed every month. As I said, just all you need to do is open them up, have a little look, and make sure that you're including us in any of those quotes. I would also say that, and same for commercial motor. So for a commercial motor vehicle offering, we actually do under 15 vehicles. So if you have more than 15 vehicles, have a chat to your Vero representative about our fleet offering. And something else I'd just like to touch on, with all of the information that we've given you around the system changes, if you ever get a little bit lost and you're not sure, have I entered this? Have I got all the information? Or you're getting frustrated with having to go all through a quote only to find it declines, or you've missed a question, your validate button and your calculate button are your best friends. They do the same thing, but as you're going through the quote, click on it regularly and it will actually give you an update on where you're up to and whether you've actually missed any information that you might need. So I just wanted to touch quickly on our claims offering. Vero is very, very proud to have won the Mansfield Awards for Claims Excellence again in 2023. That was the 4th year in a row. And despite all the noise around, the parliamentary inquiry and all of the events that have been happening and some particularly bad experiences, we do, on the whole, do our best to do the best for your clients in the event of a claim. I think when I look at, the years that we've had, I think we've had more than one natural disaster every year since at least 2009. So that's almost 15 years of year on year on year on year weather events, aside from any of the normal fire claims, etc., that we would have as part of normal business claims. And I think we have really tried to evolve and do better as we've gone over the years. I know now that we actually have split out our events team. So we have a dedicated events claims team, and then we have another team that just does normal, BAU claims. Remember too that you have a great solution where you can lodge online your claims, very quick, very easy, and your claim number normally comes through pretty quickly. With Vero One Touch, we try to settle claims that are up to $10,000, fairly quickly, as long as we have all the information. And I know from personal experience that we've had one that was like 15 minutes from start to finish, which is great to hear. But as always, we've got a lot of innovations coming, so stay tuned to hear about those. And as always, if you have any claims issues at all, you have a dedicated claims relationship manager through Resilium. You also have your dedicated Bureau representatives that are happy to help you navigate any of those issues for your clients. So now I'm actually going to hand over to Mark Wilson to talk about. Oh, I'm sorry, I've mucked it up. Sorry, we were going so well. Apparently not. I'm not handing over to Mark Wilson. I'm handing over to Nina Zamani to actually talk about what's coming up next, and then I will hand over to Mark Wilson to finish us up. Thanks, everyone. If you've got any questions, pop it in the chat.
Thank you. Thanks, Shelley. Okay, I think getting close to the end here now. Okay, so probably a bit of a plug here. On the 7th of March, if you haven't registered already, we do encourage you to register for the 2024 SME Insurance Index. That is independent research, which we share with you to understand the movements and in attitudes and buying patterns and desires of SME insurance buyers. So it's always a riveting watch. But as Shelley said, look, we have a really good rhythm now around taking on board your feedback and actually being able to use it to make change. Before, Shelley alluded, in our old system, we were very much stuck in concrete boots. And so definitely from our perspective, it's really exciting to be able to hear from you around things that are hitting the mark, so we don't change those, but also things that maybe aren't quite there, because we have a really agile system and we're able to not only respond to market conditions, but also sometimes anticipate and try and get one step ahead of the game. So please keep your feedback coming. It's really valuable and we really just love it. As I mentioned before, new occupation codes, we'll always continue and evolve with this. So we'll continue to create new occupation codes and split them up to make sure that we're keeping up to date with new and evolving businesses and to enable that sophisticated pricing. Another example of some occupations that will be coming in April are things like float tanks and salt pools, that sort of thing that are, probably it used to always just be a standard massage, but now we want to have infrared and we want to have a float tank and I want to lie there and just bliss out for a while. Some of those risks, well, we need to cater for all, whether they are acceptable or not, but some of those risks are more than acceptable. And we absolutely should have codes that capture these changing occupations. We'll continue to tune pricing. Pricing adjustments are just part of how we do business. And, it's particularly in line with that differentiated occupation offering, so that we can provide fair pricing, competitive pricing, and really be your market. And conversion. Often this is a dirty word, but this is probably the biggest piece of work we've undertaken so far. And I mentioned on my slide about things that are good to know and continual improvements. There is a lot of work happening in the background to make sure that we are enabling our system to cater, our new system to cater for the business from the old system to come in with minimal impact and disruption to you. So we'll have more to follow. We'll be moving over both our SME practice portfolio and commercial motor policies, and we'll be letting you know about things that you can do to prepare in advance of that as well. So watch this space. We will be coming back out to inform you about all those things and more in due course. So I think now I might be handing over to Mark.
Thanks, Shelley and Nina and Neil. So SME Index, this is its 13th year in play, so certainly worthwhile if you can make it to that on the 7th of March. Just to recap on some tools and resources, the broker hub on our website is a fantastic source of the information on all things VeroEdge. There's live, quote demonstrations that show you how to use the system. There's the appetite guide that we update and keep frequently updating there on the website. FAQs around anything that you think you've got questions on the system, and anything that's not answered on that, please direct them to your local Vero representative. There's the VeroEdge Sunriser user guide and other questions and FAQs that we've got there. So look, to summarize, really, the results that we've seen on the system on VeroEdge has been extremely positive. The expansion of our ANZIC codes has allowed greater visibility at the time of quoting, and it's provided that end user experience where they know what you're going to be getting in terms of a quote. Is it a decline, or is it something that we can do? So that wraps up our webinar this afternoon. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for attending. If there it doesn't look like there's any questions, so if there are any questions that you think of after the session, please pop them through to your local Vero representative. A massive thank you to Shelley, Neil, and Nina for presenting today. Really appreciate their time and appreciate your time in joining us. And for those that are attending the Vero PD Days, the Resilient PD Days, Vero will have their local BDM and state-based manager as well attending. So once again, thank you all and have a great afternoon.